I'm very excited to introduce you to VirnetX, a new advanced zero trust network security solution that has a unique background. The technology itself was originally developed for our intelligence community and the military, Department of Defense. And the problem they were trying to solve was they had intelligent assets all throughout the world that had to be able to use the public internet and communicate securely. Fortunately, now this technology is being made available to the public in the commercial market, and I think you'll find this very interesting because it's more secure than a VPN. It's more effective at protecting applications and your networks from cyber attacks. As an example, like I say, you could be in Afghanistan communicating in a cafe and it's completely hidden, completely secure, and nobody knows that you're communicating back to Washington, D.C. What I want you to do is consider looking at this as a new proactive way to protect your network. Picture a scenario where in your environment, if you could provide secure access to your organization with zero trust, including military grade end-to-end encryption, while being completely invisible to any non-authorized parties, and that means shutting out your cyber criminals in foreign nations and hopefully preventing a lot of ransomware attacks before they even have a chance to penetrate your network. One of the things I think is interesting, the VirnetX approach is that let's try and stop as much of this before it even gets into your network. Thus, the reason for trying to show you how we can close those open holes in your networks that lead those hackers directly into your servers. We're going to show you how to transform the public-facing sites that you have into invisible private sites. Why do anybody in the public environment need access or the potential access into your network where they could access CJIS information? And then we're going to show you also how we can mitigate a lot of endpoint device attacks that are based on scanning ports and denial of service, etc. And then finally, how can we automatically mitigate and transform stolen credentials from phishing attacks into useless credentials without any IT or end user intervention? So let me tell you a little story. It's regarding a rural community called City of Bridgeport in West Virginia. They are approximately just shy of 10,000 people, 190 employees full-time, $20 million budget, and about $111,000 average household income. Now, they were already using Cisco Duo, AnyConnect for their VPN client, and NetMotion. Now, some of the challenges that they had, the officers had to use multiple login steps, multiple VPNs to access the different applications that they needed to get to. They had to, as Doug pointed out, they had to wait for a security code or a token to come across on their cell phones, all these extra steps just to access their CJIS file share. And then the other concern that the IT department had was how do we prevent those hackers from having lateral movement throughout the enterprise network? And then finally, the big challenge was that there's only two people on their IT staff, the director of IT and a system administrator. So along comes a hacker and sends out a phishing email. Somebody falls for the phishing email. And he just goes to their website, their City of Bridgeport login. He goes right in there, spends time embedding all these bot programs, and then they decided to trigger it. And all of a sudden, the City of Bridgeport was shut down and locked out of all of their systems. Needless to say, they made some changes. The IT director left, and they did have to pay a ransom, as I recall. But they hired a new IT director, and that IT director came in and he was told, fix this. You need to make some changes and protect us. We're behind you. We'll support you. He went in and he got grant money to replace the Duo system. They were very frustrated with that. What he did was he implemented the VirnetX solution to replace the VPN connection for the file share access. And what this does right off the bat, because of the proprietary secure DNS technology that VirnetX uses, they literally, as I said before, make it so that this portal or this web URL is completely invisible. So you're not going to be able to find how to get in. Then behind the scenes, VirnetX, in addition to the MFA, does mutual authentication. It requires that you do authentication at the user level and the device level using X509 certificates, and that's all controlled and provided by the Matrix server. Once you've matched those, you finally get an authorized connection into your CJIS file share. Now, the benefits from their perspective were that portal is invisible to everyone except the people that should be using it in the first place. The dual authentication reduced the number of steps that the patrol officers had to do to get into their systems, whether it was the CAD system or the file share or other applications. And that really is a big plus. I mean, whether you're a patrol officer or a detective that's working remotely, literally what the end user has to do is enter their MFA credentials in the fashion that, like Doug said, whatever you choose to use, and then they simply click on the app to get in, and they're in. It's much faster because you've got this connection and authentication going on. We call that a one-click virtual network connection. Now, the reason we call that a virtual connection is because that person is only getting access through a wormhole-like tunnel and has no idea, no view, no access to any other aspect of your network. They are only getting to see that application, be it your CJIS file share. So another analogy I would give you is that let's say that you are going to go to the shopping mall and go to the sporting goods store. Unlike a traditional VPN, you don't even know that there's other stores in that mall. You don't even see the mall. You go straight to the department that issues the hunting tags. And what this also does is it eliminates potential lateral movement across that physical network. Now, something I want to explain real quick is these folks, again, remember, there were only 2 people on their staff. They made these changes, and it took about, an hour to install the software and get it configured properly. And then they were able to test it for about a week. And then they rolled it out to some of their users, and they didn't tell the users. Now, they had tested all this beforehand, so it doesn't sound as scary as you might think, but they rolled it out to their users, and nothing was different in terms of the end user, other than they noticed how much faster it was because they weren't having to go through all those extra steps. It actually reduced quite a few steps. Now, how does this scenario, how does this new technology protect you from phishing attacks? That's something going on that for a long time, everybody goes, there's nothing we can do to stop these phishing attacks. That's true. We can't stop the phishing attacks, but here's what happens if you have VirnetX implemented. That hacker still sends out a valid phishing attack, and you're going to still have people that are going to fall for it. And he's still jumping up and down because he just got the keys to the kingdom. At least that's what he thinks. But remember, this is invisible. He can't find the portal in the first place to log into. Secondly, he doesn't have the VirnetX client app, and so you can't get that device authentication. And if you can't get the device authentication, then you're not going to get that mutual match, and there's no way you're going to get that authorized connection. So you, in essence, automatically transform those stolen credentials into useless credentials without any IT or end user intervention. Just to show you, there's also a wealth of information on the back end telling you the devices that are in your environment, who's been active. If you want to look at Kim Rayner's device, she's on iOS 16.1.2 using an iPhone 8. And then you can even delve into it even further if you like. And as an incentive to all of you that have attended today, we want you to know that through the end of the year, we've got some promotions going. And one is that if you go forward with AuthX, there's free implementation services. Then on the VirnetX side, we have a 2-for-1 legacy VPN trade-in program. So if you have 50 Fortinet VPN licenses, you'll get 50 for the price of 25. And the pricing for VirnetX is basically similar to traditional VPN licensing.